This video is a little bit different. If you follow me on Instagram, it is no secret that I am building a house right now, and you guys seem really excited. You guys are also kind of nosy and asking lots of questions, which is great. I love it. So I thought the best way to kick off this series is to just address your questions about the budget and design. If you've ever wanted to build your own modern house, or maybe you're just curious what it's like, keep watching. I'm going to cover everything we've experienced so far. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Bryce.
And we are building a modern house.
We're trying.
Hopefully building a modern house. We want a cool contemporary house and we need a workshop, but we have an impossible budget. So that means we have to get really creative and be prepared to roll up our sleeves and do some of the work ourselves. It'll be hard, but it will be worth it. This video is brought to you by presenting sponsor Simpson Strong-Tie and the online learning platform Skillshare. So we are building a house. Well, not at this moment, but...
I thought it was a chicken coop.
No, it is a house.
Big chickens.
We are building a custom house in Mesa, Arizona. Building in Arizona is a whole different beast. It's very different. It's very, very hot here. It's not unusual for the temperature to be over 120 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer.
Or to be over 100 degrees for a month.
Yeah, including nighttime. You wake up at 4 a.m. and it's over 100 degrees out. What is 120 in Celsius? I calculated it once. I think it's like 50.
I can tell you right now.
Thanks to Google, we know 120 Fahrenheit is around 48 degrees Celsius. Hot. Since we're going to be talking about money through this entire series, the first thing I want to do is to check my privilege at the door.
Yeah.
Recognize that this is a lot of money for anybody. Talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. I recognize that's more than a lot of people will ever even make in their life. And we are tremendously blessed that we are able to work and to earn an income and to be able to even think about taking something like this on. That being said, I really, really, really want to ask all of you to please be sensitive when we are talking about our finances. And even though I might say something's a lot of money or not a lot of money, and that doesn't resonate with you. We're just speaking from our own experience, but we recognize not everybody has the same privilege and opportunity that we do. Our house is 2,600 square feet, and this area is considered probably a medium-sized home. I recognize though, in other parts of the world, actually in other parts of the country, that is a massive, that's a mansion.
That's a big house for a lot of
people. That is a really big house. I realize that this is a great, big, beautiful house, and we are very, very lucky to even think about building it. So I was kind of a weird kid, and I grew up watching This Old House and Trading Spaces and a bunch of house-related DIY kind of shows, and I always dreamed of building my own custom house one day. So we are in a really lucky situation because Bryce's dad is a general contractor, and Bryce actually grew up framing houses.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I spent every summer building houses with my dad, and even when I grew up, I was still building houses with him for a long time until I got my degree and became an engineer.
Thankfully, we learned a few skills by remodeling our last two houses and Bryce having his experience growing up. But that being said, we have no idea what we're getting ourselves into. We have never built anything even close to this big before, and I think we're a little out of our depth.
Figure it out along the way, I guess.
No other choice now.
Yeah, it's a little late now to decide it's too late.
As you can imagine, building a house for the first time has pushed me way out of my comfort zone and forced me to learn a whole bunch of new tricks and skills. It's been really cool because I actually love learning new things, and that's why I want to talk to you guys about this video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for curious and creative people like myself and you. They offer thousands of classes on topics like design, photography, videography, editing, and tons of other really helpful skills when you're running a small business. They're great for beginners, pros, masters, and the rest of us hustlers. Skillshare has classes to fit your schedule and skill level. Building a house, raising a family, and running a business has me so busy, but I still have time to learn. Most classes are under 60 minutes, which I can squeeze in even with my very full to-do list. I really enjoyed the class SketchUp Make 2017, a beginner's guide by Matthew Abbott. The teacher uses most of the same steps I use when I design my projects. The course helps guide you through SketchUp Make really simply. It covers everything from introduction to design to using the tools, and even gives you a chance to do a hands-on class project at the end. Right now, Skillshare is offering a special promotion. The first 1,000 subscribers to click the link in the description box get a free 2-month premium membership so you can explore your creativity. I've had several of you ask how you can help support me and Pneumatic Addict. This is a great opportunity if you'd like to do so. You get to learn and expand your skills while helping to support this channel if that's what you'd like to do. Thanks, Skillshare. Even though I always wanted to build a house, we didn't think it was going to be financially plausible. In the area that we live in, typically only very wealthy people or people with a lot of resources are able to build custom homes, and we are not. I mean, I'm not going to complain, but we are solidly middle class. We both, work for a living, and being able to drop the kind of money that most people in this area spend on a custom home seemed just impossible. We bought an acre of land about a year and a half ago. We were still living in our last house when we bought this land. It kind of fell into our laps. His parents were looking at land, and there was a for sale by owner on the lot next door. And when they called on it, it was the top of our budget.
Yeah.
It was
But it was in our budget.
It was in our budget. It was $120,000, and that is the very, very most top end of our budget that we figured we could afford for an acre of land. An acre is more than we need, but the way things are zoned around here, it's usually little tiny lots or acreage, and there's not much in between. We only had a few $1,000s saved up, but thankfully, since we had done some pretty extensive remodeling ourselves, we knew we had a nice chunk of equity in the house. So we knew as soon as we sold the house, we would have enough money to pay for the lot. But that in-between time presented a challenge.
That gap between having land and having a home.
Exactly. Bryce's parents very generously offered to loan us cash to pay for the land. And it was about 9 months later before we sold our house, and then we just took the proceeds from the sale of our house and paid that off. It's kind of uncomfortable to talk about finances and the amount of money that you spend on a home. But when I was doing research, I found it really difficult to find hard numbers as somebody was building, especially a style of home that we want. So I'm making this, I'm being really vulnerable, I'm sharing everything, hopefully to give you guys a little bit more information. I am not a financial advisor or a banker or a loan officer, so do not take any advice from me with your finances or obtaining a loan. Talk to an expert, because your situation will definitely be different than mine. Something we discovered really quickly while researching for this house is as soon as you say contemporary, the price goes up on everything. Really difficult to build a contemporary style home on a budget. Speaking of a budget, we have one, a very hard and fast one. As I mentioned before, we had a little bit of money saved up, which we are so blessed, so lucky to be in a position that we had a little bit of money saved up, but definitely not enough to pay cash for the building process. And definitely not enough to have a limitless budget either. We are going to have a mortgage on this house, and we know by talking to a banker, we know how much we can afford. And so that set our maximum top budget at $300,000. A construction loan is kind of like a mortgage, but a little bit different. You get your money in chunks, which are called draws. So we will get several draws throughout the course of construction, which we will use to pay all of our subcontractors. And then at the end, once we have our certificate of occupancy, that will roll into a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. When I started researching construction loans, I found that most banks are a lot more eager to lend to you if you own your land outright. There are construction loans which you can finance either a part or the total cost of your land into the construction loan. But thankfully, we were able to just own our land outright before we even started the process of the construction loan. We now have a lot of collateral, an acre's worth of collateral, which makes the bank a lot more eager to loan money to us. If you told most contractors and architects that we were going to try to build the home that we want for under $300,000 plus a 1,200 square foot workshop, they would laugh at you. That is an insanely low budget. Let's talk a little bit about building a custom home in my state of Arizona. As I mentioned before, land is at a premium in the Phoenix area. In our hometown Mesa, which is a suburb of Phoenix, the average home on an acre-sized lot available for sale is around $1.25 million. Now that price range includes some extremely large and extravagant homes. When I adjusted my search to more modestly appointed houses under 3,000 square feet, I came up with an average price of $612,000. Still a pretty hefty sum. When it comes to building a new custom house, it costs about $150 on average per square foot. That means using average statistics, our 2,600 square foot house should cost around $390,000 to build. And that doesn't include our 1,200 square foot detached workshop. Figuring the workshop cost about $75 a square foot to build, half that of a normal house, that's an additional $90,000. Altogether, a safe estimate for the kind of home and shop that we want to build is around $480,000. A solid $180,000 above our total budget.
We're going to put a lot of our own work into this house to try and keep the budget down.
Sweat equity.
Lots of sweat equity.
Very, very generously, his dad has waived his general contractor fee. So that saved us, we calculated what, like $40,000?
Yeah.
That we don't have to pay a general contractor. We know we have this impossible budget, and so we are just gonna have to scrimp and scrape and get really creative where we're gonna source our materials and be willing to roll up our sleeves and just do a lot of stuff ourselves. But it's gonna be a stretch. It's going to be a challenge.
It's definitely going to be a challenge. More like, how did we guess what it would cost to build this house?
It was an educated guess.
It was an educated guess. The way that we did that is my parents just finished building their own custom home, and theirs is just a little bit larger than ours. So what we did is took all the numbers that they paid for their house.
For each trade.
And then we scaled it to our square footage. So we took their square footage, got a price per square foot for each trade, and then use that price per square foot based on ours.
Plus a little bit of a cushion.
Plus a little cushion.
Since there's economy of scale, building a little bit larger house, we took the price per square foot of every trade and added, what was it, 10%?
We gave ourselves a 10% cushion.
Per square foot.
Per square foot. So our hard budget that we came up with based on that was $268,000 before our contingency.
Is what ideally we should be paying.
That's what we're hoping for.
That's what we are going to shoot for.
But we did give ourselves a 10% contingency, which is about $26,000 just in case. So that keeps us just barely under our $300,000 cap.
And from what everybody tells me, we will need that contingency.
Having to watch what we spend our money on is going to be crucial.
Mm-hmm. There were a few things that we had to pay out of pocket before we could even start applying for a construction loan. I'll put a little chart over here.
Chart there.
This is how much we spent out of pocket before we started even addressing the cost of building. So those things were the plans, the modifications. We had to hire a local draftsperson to make the plans compatible for our area, for our county that we live in. And the engineering, I forgot engineering.
Yes, we had to pay for engineering separate from the plans.
Separate from the plans, and that was what, $4,000?
That was another $4,500.
$4,500 for that. We are in an area where we have a septic tank, so we had to pay for the perk test, which is the test to determine whether or not our soil drains well enough for a septic system. And then we had to apply for the permit for the septic tank. And then it was... And then it was our building permit that we could apply for. So all said and done, we were several thousand into it. Sometimes you can roll some expenses into your construction loan. since we had to get everything rolling basically before we could even apply for financing, that meant all these things we had to pay for came out of our savings.
Yep.
So when we started looking at designs for a house, we went about it entirely the wrong way. I would not recommend going the route we did.
Yeah, we definitely, I don't know if we went about it the best way. I don't know what a better way would have been. The challenge that we face is that we both like very different things in a house. So when we went over trying to decide, well, what do you like, what do I like, it was hard to find something that would blend really well. So what we ended up doing instead was that we got online and looked at pre-done plans, because then we could at least see what it would look like.
We found an architect that was out of state that sold his plans online. It limited our options a little bit. So we made some changes, and then we had him, the original architect, make a bunch of changes on it. And that was good because that gave us a designated square footage, a designated room count, and basically hard parameters that we couldn't just get wild and start adding everything we ever wanted and completely go over budget. Because our architect was out of state, building codes are slightly different. Not only that, but different regions of the United States have just different building styles. Even if it all matches the same international building code, they just do foundations a little different. They do strapping and siding and things like that, just a little different depending on what region of the country you live in. And I think it would have been much, much smarter to try to find a local architect who has experience drawing homes in Arizona and have him recreate something that we liked. I really love clean lines and modern architecture. I wanted a house that didn't look like every other Arizona style house. Something pretty contemporary, lots of light, lots of windows, tall ceilings, and most importantly, it needed to have the workshop, which I think was on your list as well, right?
That was my list.
That was it? That was your only list?
There was a little bit more than that, but primarily I just wanted a workshop somewhere to work, and I know that's what you wanted too, so I really like when houses look at least balanced from side to side, which is not often found in contemporary design.
That's right. So thankfully we did find a design that we both thought was aesthetically pleasing, and it was within the square footage parameters that we needed. Had a couple of other little fun things we wanted, like a loft. And we found from a separate architect, we actually found a detached, was it 30 by 40?
Yep.
1,200 square foot detached RV garage that's going to be our shared workshop.
So the reason we ended up with an RV garage instead of just a normal shop was
because we don't own an RV.
Yeah, we don't own an RV. If we did, we'd be living in it right now. But the reason we needed the extra high space is actually my fault. I do a lot of automotive work, and I need to get a car. I want to get a car lift, which requires a lot of headspace to get it in. So for my sake, doing an RV garage with a lot of height so that I could facilitate the stuff that I need.
And the big square footage comes down to the fact that he does metalworking. I do a little bit of metal, but mostly wood. And it's probably a good idea to keep sparks and sawdust away from each other.
Yeah, welding and sawdust has never been a good thing.
So we got our plans, and then we had to start going through the permitting process, which is just as horrible as everybody says it is.
It really is.
While we went through the permitting process, we learned all sorts of interesting things that we were not prepared for. We live on a shared driveway.
Yeah.
It's a very long driveway. It looks like a road that, 5 houses are off of? But technically it's just a driveway. And since we are the last house to build on that shared driveway, the county is requiring, or told us that they will require before they would approve our permit, that we must now pave the entrance to the neighborhood or to the driveway area. Although we know we're not going to be completely done with the house for quite a while. Like, we probably won't be able to tackle landscaping for at least a year or two. And I'm sure we won't be finished decorating and adding, stuff to the patio and stuff like that. But what we are aiming for right now is a 9-month course of construction to get it to the point where we can have a C of O, which is a certificate of occupancy from our county, which is our local jurisdiction. And then our mortgage kicks in and we can start making payments. The house plans that we chose it's technically a 3-bedroom plus a den, right? Almost exactly 2,600 square feet, but it does have a bonus room upstairs included in that 2,600 square feet.
Yeah.
How many bathrooms do we have?
I believe it's 3.5 baths.
We're going to have a big great room with a kitchen right off of it. We had that in our last home, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I have always wanted a house with stairs, but I don't want my bedroom upstairs, so thankfully the master bedroom is downstairs. Actually, all the bedrooms are downstairs.
All the bedrooms are downstairs. We just want stairs to look at. We don't want to have to actually use them.
I want to use them. The only room that's upstairs is this big bonus room, which we are going to make the kids' hangout room.
Well, we plan on being in this house for a long time, so we planned ahead a little bit and we decided to make it a double deep garage. And we actually included a garage door on the back, so it's a pull through, which is kind of for me. So I can pull out the back of the garage and the kids can go out the front. I think one of the cool design features of the house is actually the roof.
I love the roof.
The roof on the house is actually pretty neat. Most houses have a conventional either gable, where you just see that normal steeple kind of looking.
Like the stick drawing house?
Like the stick drawing house, yeah. Or a hip set where all of the trusses end on the roof, or all the roof lines go to a flat point on the end.
Like a pyramid.
Yeah, she's better at explaining this than I am. Our house uses mono pitch, where the entire roof is a single plane going in one slope.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool. I really like the fact that on our design, it has that on both sides of the house, so it still has the feel of a normal gable pitched roof.
A more traditional
but it's
shape.
Broken up.
Yeah.
It's kind of
You
cool.
got like plates of roof here and there. And then there's
Lego
some
roof.
And there's some flat sections in there too, just to make sure the other ones look extra cool. The house is going to be wood framed, which I know my friends in Europe think is really, really weird, but once again, incredibly standard where we live. If we built this house out of steel and masonry, it would have cost us twice as much.
Yeah, easily.
At least twice as much.
And it wouldn't be as well insulated. We'll do a lot of stucco, a lot of white stucco. That's really common here in Arizona. But somebody wanted it to look extra special. So we're looking at doing some Corten steel as well.
Corten steel is a special kind of steel that has some alloy in it that when it rusts, it creates this like protective rust that doesn't penetrate and degrade the metal. It creates just a patina on the outside, and it's beautiful.
So I'm gonna live in a rusty box.
It's only parts of it are gonna be rusty.
Yeah, and mostly a lot of glass other than that.
A lot of glass. I have been guilty about being a little obsessed with windows, and I have added a few windows to the plans. But to my defense, probably 80% of the windows were already there. That's why I liked the plans to begin with. It was a very light-filled house, lots of windows. I think we added or expanded the windows in every room.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, some of that was to save money, because if it called for this giant window, all we had to do was add a much smaller window for egress, something small enough to climb out during a fire, and then we could keep that great big window as just a picture window. We are planning on living in this house for a very long time, at least till our kids are out of high school, so probably another 9-10 years at least. I don't ever want to move.
I hate moving. I don't ever want to do it again.
Right. So because of that, we are trying to think long term. We are trying to make decisions to use longer lasting, higher quality materials, but that pesky old budget wants to just keep getting in the way. The whole building process is this delicate dance between quality and longevity and affordability, and we usually end up somewhere in the middle.
Because there's a lot of things we could do, like building 2x4 walls, doing cheaper insulation that would save us money now, but they'll end up costing us money in the long run.
Right, our month-to-month expenses would be really high.
Yeah, it's hot here.
It's really hot here. If you've been following along on Instagram and Facebook, you know that we've made lots of progress on this house, and it's been stressful. Starting next week, I'm going to start publishing all the nitty-gritty, the actual hands-on action of building the house. If you have any questions that we didn't address in this video, make sure to leave them in the comment section below. Make sure you're subscribed to Pneumatic Addict and you've hit the notification bell so you can follow along the entire building process. It's been a wild ride. If you like simple and modern design ideas you can build yourself, make sure you check out this video. and maybe this one as well. Thank you guys for watching.